A new year brings with it a chance to do something no Indian captain has ever done in the history of Test cricket, to win a series in Australia. It is in Sydney, the New Year's Test, that brings with it a chance for Virat Kohli's men to create history. They've done the first bit right by winning the toss at the SCG and deciding to bat first. Virat Kohli is yet to lose a test match after winning the toss. For whatever it's worth, the next 5 days will decide whether the Border Gavaskar trophy comes home along with a series win or whether it's just a trophy, and we've seen another fight back from Australia. On ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, presented by Maruti Suzuki, I am Raunak Kapoor in the familiar company of Sanjay Manjrekar and Ajit Agarkar, who've set their alarms one last time in this series. Welcome, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Big
and
toss.
Happy New Year to you and to everyone.
Absolutely. Big toss to win, Sanjay, to start.
Yeah, actually, we should now go home because India's won the test match.
I would love to.
Yeah, won the test match. The Border Gavaskar trophy is already ours. Gavaskar is actually in Mumbai, so it's just a matter of border coming
So you still feel a little passion for this side, even after all these years. The Border Gavaskar trophy is ours, so the player in you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, early in the morning, the patriotism is very high, then slowly it diminishes.
I know our editor-in-chief is not a fan of ex-cricketers saying ours and all, but I think Ajit Agarkar is now the most seasoned broadcaster when it comes to keeping his...
more professional.
More than Sanjay, I doubt it.
Big toss to win.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, that's the way the series has panned out. Anyone who's, either team, when they've won the toss and they put runs on the board, the other team found it hard to come back in the test. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, who knows? There might be some early help in that pitch. If Australia can bowl well, they could still be in with a chance, but they'll be under pressure.
And that...
I'm a bit of a skeptic about this thing, which was there on Cricinfo, actually, this theory that winning the toss is more of an advantage than actually home and away advantage, and I'm getting a little sold on that theory. This match will actually tell you, if India won the toss and they go on to win and dominate, I think there is some credence to that theory.
Okay, now we have seen Australia soak in the pressure previously in this series. They did bounce back after losing in Adelaide at Perth. Damien Martyn joins us from Sydney. Martyn, best of mornings to you. Not the happiest start by Tim Paine losing that toss. There are also a host of changes I believe Australia make. But the pressure on Australia, on the one hand, Virat Kohli knows what the occasion is for him. But Tim Paine wouldn't want to go down as the first Aussie captain to give India a series win at home.
No, he wouldn't. And a lot of pressure. Not a great start of the new year, is it? He doesn't win a lot of tosses, which makes it hard. And I'm with Sanjay, but you win the toss, you bat first. And like we saw in Melbourne, runs on the board puts pressure on. I mean, Australian batting under pressure just failed once India put a big score on. Yes, there might be some little bit of movement early on, but it's the great call. And batting last at the SCG is always tough.
Yeah, Tim Paine's not enjoying these coin tosses. Maybe time for a bat flip, perhaps, Test cricket to change his luck. No, you're not a big fan.
No, I'm more a fan of, as I said in our run out of program that will be shown very shortly, of the Oli Suki. The pebble that you have, you make one side wet and one side dry and chuck it up and see which side comes up. Very eco-friendly, as I mentioned.
I see. I don't know if Damien agrees with that. Maybe a bat flip to better Tim Paine's chances in the toss.
Or can we have something change so we can maybe bat first sometimes?
But on a serious note, actually, if toss is having such a huge bearing on the results with evenly matched team, then you've got to start looking at that aspect, because you can't be sort of being in a great position by just a flip of the coin. But also India need to bat well. Every time they batted first, they batted well, thanks to, let's not forget, people are talking about Bumrah. Pujara has got 200.
Sure.
And why India have been able to win after winning tosses is because people like Pujara have gone in and just sort of ground their way to some hard runs.
Okay, now what about the two teams? That was the discussion. Australia had decided to keep their playing 11 close to their chest for this particular test. Normally they announce their 11s in advance, but there are changes that come for Tim Paine's side in the new year. In comes MARNUS, who has been confirmed to bat at number 3 while Aaron Finch misses out. He bowls a bit of leg spin, played 2 tests in the UAE, did the Queensland all-rounder. Peter Handscomb is back after scoring some runs in the Big Bash League and being dropped early on in this series. No place for Mitchell Marsh, who just has the 1 test. Let's go to Damien Martyn then. No place for Aaron Finch then. Damien, does the nature of that selection surprise you?
Well, it does. I would have probably kept playing him. I think, finish the series out. But obviously, they think that he's, hasn't been making runs. But it's a change. It's a last test match. So interesting. New young player comes back in, which is always good. Handscomb comes back. It's hard. You get dropped for 1 test match rather than you're back in at the SCG. So I just hope they're not making changes because of the pressure and, instead of saying, well, okay, what's our long-term plan? At the moment, they're sort of going bidding back and forth and trying to, fix holes in a way.
I think they're also looking at the Australian team with David Warner and Steve Smith back. You'll expect Khwaja to start opening, and Marcus Harris will continue batting at the top. Travis Head there, Steve Smith, David Warner come in. That's going to be the batting lineup of the future, and you wonder where Aaron Finch fits in. The only chance that he had to make it into the top 5 or 6 with all these guys coming back was getting some runs, which he hasn't.
As a bowler, you'd fancy your chances bowling to Aaron Finch with what you've seen. He's not a traditional opener. He doesn't open first-class cricket.
When he
either.
opened the innings for sure, I think a lot of the Indians would have been happier to see Aaron Finch at the top. Okay, it could be dangerous if he got through that new ball, got a 15 Perth. But apart from that, there were obvious weaknesses against the new ball. So, as a bowler, you'd rather bowl to Finch. I think Khwaja has done the job before, so he'll be a tougher opponent to bowl at.
And Hanscom is in the team because I believe he plays spin quite well. So Sydney, once you go to Sydney, spin becomes a talking point.
I mean, it was only 2 tests back that I heard a host of Australian commentators say there's no point playing Peter Hanscom with his technical deficiencies.
Against seam
I think Shane Warne made that point stronger
but
than
against
others.
spin, he has the reputation of being a good batsman against spin, so maybe that is why he's back.
Maybe India have a few spinners in their lineup today.
They do. Kuldeep Yadav actually makes an appearance in this team. So we'll confirm the India team. Yes, we'll confirm the India team for you. Ravichandran Ashwin was a bit of a mystery overnight. He was named in the 13 in spite of the captain mentioning that he's not fully fit. They gave him a chance to prove his fitness ahead of this test, but that's not happened. There is, for the first time, I think, Ravindra Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav playing together in an overseas test. KL Rahul returns as what you would think is some insurance because Rohit Sharma had to fly back for the birth of his first child, and therefore you'd think Hanuma Vihari would be back in a much more comfortable position in the middle order in that Indian team. Right. No place for Umesh Yadav too, so the seam bowling lineup other than Ishant Sharma, who was left out of this 13, remains the same. Kuldeep Yadav, Sanjay.
There's your Virat Kohli surprise of the match or
of the year to start the year
of the match. Before every match, there is a selection surprise, and there's no match that's played without any surprise selection. Kuldeep Yadav is a surprise. I would have liked to see 3 seamers in just 1 spinner, and if Ashwin was there, eligible for selection, maybe ahead of Kuldeep Yadav. But who can rule out Kuldeep Yadav not making an impact? But I would have stuck to the same team purely because you can't get too carried away by Sydney turning pitch. It's still an Australian pitch, and the 3 seamers are in great form. That is if Ishant Sharma was fit. Maybe toss up between Umesh Yadav, Kuldeep Yadav, and Ashwin. I would have gone for the spinners.
But even so, that's a big call to take. In Australia, 2 seamers. Those 2 other seamers have had a lot of work in the last test as well. If the ball doesn't spin, then you're suddenly sort of hamstrung with 2 spinners. The seamers still can create an impact in Australia, even though the pitch might favor spin a little bit. It's not going to be a minefield like some of the ones you get in India. So, big call. I'm not sure whether it's the right one. I know it's the first morning, but I'm not sure it's the right one.
It plays okay that at least he's going to bowl 2nd and 4th on this pitch to some
Unless
degree.
they've gone there and they've seen a potential rank turner, then it makes a little bit of sense. But
pitch reading isn't a speciality of this team, though, Sanjay.
I mean, for anyone, it's not easy to read
easy.
pitches, especially foreign pitches. Indian pitches are far easier to read. They start turning even before you come to the...
I mean, that's the good thing that at least they're bowling last on this. Or they're likely to bowl last
I'm glad Hardik Pandya has not made it because he would have spoiled the balance a little bit. They're stuck with specialist batsmen and specialist bowlers. You saw Australia flirt with bits and pieces. Mitchell Marsh, Labuschagne as well. I mean, he's got 24 wickets in 43 matches. So he's
more of a part-time spinner though.
Yes. So I'm glad India have stuck to their quality batsmen and bowlers.
There is this story on Sydney and how good is it spin. Before we get the numbers, Damien, if you were Tim Payne and you saw Kuldeep Yadav on that sheet, what would be your reaction?
I think he's probably looking at the whole sheet, wondering where he's going to get some runs and get some wickets. I think he's got a lot more problems than that. But look, Sydney, as you said, it's hard. It's hard without actually being there and seeing that wicket. Yeah. But it will spin, but it won't be something like a nightmare minefield of spinning. That the quicks will still play a part. They had that before. Sometimes it's been a bit up and down, and the quicks have got wickets. So, I think for Tim Payne, the crucial thing now is the worry has been their batting. I mean, our bowling attack's gone well. Our batting hasn't. So he needs, just to get that top 6 firing and making enough runs, especially now India batting first, they're going to be under pressure again. He has to change that.
Now, what about those numbers that suggest that could have been part of the decision process to play Kuldeep Yadav and play two spinners, even though R. Ashwin isn't one of them? The last 5 tests, an average of 53 to spin and 34 to pace. So there is this theory of Sydney favouring spin more than other grounds in Australia. And we're also having a quick look at the last 5 first-class games just for a little more recency factor and see how things tend to go in Sheffield Shield cricket at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Does it get you an idea of anything different? Not really. 54.5 the average for spin there. Now,
so what it's basically telling us is that pace is working more than spin at Sydney.
I guess I dug up those scorecards. There are a couple of Ashes games in there. The quality of spinners. You had Nathan Lyon on one side for Australia regularly, and you had Steve O'Keefe in a couple. But on the other side, you had a couple of forgotten English spinners in Scott Borthwick and Mason Crane. You had Jomel Warrikin, Moeen Ali. Other than Yasir Shah in a couple of tests in 2016, there's no top-class spinner who's had a chance
Moeen
to
Ali
play. And Ashwin is one. Ashwin is one.
Yeah, but you know, when we talk about Sydney and turning pitches, it's all very relative, isn't it? It's a turning pitch in Australia, considering the other pitches. I don't think any pitch in India will compare to a Sydney pitch when it comes to turn. All Indian pitches will turn more than the Sydney pitch. So I was hoping that India don't make the mistake of going with 2 spinners and dropping one of their informed quality seamers. India is in this position because of their quality seam.
You'd think he's carrying a niggle. I can't imagine any other reason of leaving.
Yeah, left out of the 13, so maybe that is the reason.
Is it that much of a gamble that they've played Kuldeep for Umesh Yadav and not for Ishan Sharma? Ishan being injured,
fair.
And no Bhuvaneshwar Kumar in this 13. Or would you have even wanted a Bhuvaneshwar Kumar in this?
No, we're forgetting about Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, but he was not
such
there
a big, such a big team. He wasn't in the 13. He's been part of this, but
I'm not ahead of Umesh. If they had to pick a third seamer instead of Ishant, I would have always favoured Umesh. That extra pace, you know, sometimes even on a slow pitch, I know Sanjay is not doesn't have the same opinion.
Because you're talking about Philander and there's another guy called Mohammad Abbas who are bowling at 125, 113, making quite an impact, Mr. Agarkar. Because you've been a quick bowler yourself, I think, I guess you want...
No, just in the conditions in Australia, I think Umesh might have a better, or create a better impact than Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. We haven't seen Bhuvi do that in those conditions, or slightly flatter conditions when the ball gets older in particular.
But it's going to be fun watching Kuldeep Yadav against these Australian
he is. He could consider himself a 4th test specialist against Australia. Kuldeep Yadav has fond memories of making a debut, you could say, against odds at Dharamshala and surprising quite a few of us when he did get that game. It'll be a nice thing to look at how Nathan Lyon goes at Sydney if you want to take an assessment of how spin might favour a real top-class spinner. And we'll throw those numbers up for you. An average of 48 for Australia's premier spinner, the strike rate of 93. Does that surprise you if you look at it, Damien? Does that tell you a story that is, and maybe you can put some perspective as to why this perception continues? You've heard Ajit and Sanjay saying it might assist spin more than other grounds in Sydney, but yet Australia's premier spinner doesn't seem to enjoy it as much as other grounds.
No, he doesn't. They're interesting stats. I mean, but we've also seen him enjoy the bounce of Australian wickets as well, and he's changed his bowling from when he first started, trying to work on his action and become better. But like in Perth, he got a lot of wickets with the arm ball going on and bounce and taking the outside edge. So Sydney can turn a bit slower, but pace will play a part. I mean, in the last 2 days, it will be up and down. There'll be cracks on it. It's been very hot in Sydney at the moment, 30 plus degree days. So he will play a part, but. Interesting stats. I mean, I don't know why, whether it's a slow spin, whether it's not much bounce there, that he's not getting the wickets he needs.
The other change, of course, is KL Rahul and India batting first. So he comes for first show in 2019 here. I'm wondering why KL Rahul and not Murli Vijay, and what would have been the thinking there? Would you have stuck with
the captain likes him, basically.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. I mean, we know he's got the potential, but unfortunately he's not been in great form. It's Virat Kohli clearly prefers him over some of the other openers that we've seen. Maybe Prithvi Shaw was the only other guy that would have played ahead of him. He's got to start getting some runs. It's a nice opportunity on probably one of the better surfaces in Australia. So, I would have picked Vijay. Vijay looked good in that Perth test in the second innings.
Yeah, clutching at straws. His 20 that he got in the second inning before he was dropped. He looked good against pace. Got out playing a bad shot to Nathan Lyon. So, on current little form, Murli Vijay, I think, had the advantage, but he's right.
Fond memories of Sydney.
KL Rahul's got 100 in Sydney, isn't it? In the last series.
I think it is, when it's what we call 19-20 in Hindi, they might as well go for a young batsman who's got, maybe he'll give us more in return.
Could somewhere also be on KL Rahul's mind? He's now seen Mayank Agarwal get runs. He knows Prithvi Shaw is favoured back whenever India pick a test team next. Could be a slightly more, little more at stake for KL Rahul.
There
Make
is.
him
I mean,
hungrier?
when you see if everyone's fit, I think Mayank Agarwal and Prithvi Shaw should play the next test match on current form.
Sure.
But Rahul, I have not been able to figure out his problems, temperamental and technical.
And of course, we do know that he's played a lot of cricket with Mayank Agarwal in first class cricket. So there's that little quotient as far as the team goes. Let's focus on other things. Though Australia have the task of actually improving batting. Now, what does MARNUS Labuschagne bring? Damien, has he played a lot at number 3? That's where he's been told that we've been told that he's going to play. Has he played there in first class for Queensland? What do you know about Labuschagne, who batted lower in his first 2 test matches in the UAE?
Yes, no, it's been. I think Sydney Test match always brings up a change. I mean, even when I played, you get to the end of the series, either you're winning the series or losing the series, and they pick someone from, probably not thinking about. There's been Joe Burns has been sitting around averaging 47 this year, so his stats, as we mentioned, he's a part-time bowler. He's probably more of a batter, as we've seen. So it's an interesting change, but maybe Justin Langer, and the selectors have been around. They've seen, something that they know is going to be huge potential going forward. You see he's bowling average 77, so hopefully he gets a few wickets and improves on that. But look, it's a chance for him. He's young, he's talented, and this will be a big test.
Sanjay, you got a question?
Yeah, just want to ask you, Damien, whether Labuschagne, not Labuschagne, right? Labuschagne. Would there be better batsmen than him in Australia, and is he playing only because he bowls a bit of leg spin?
I think you're right. I think definitely that they wanted to look at some spin bowling options, didn't they? They probably thought they can fit someone in as a second spinner, full second spinner. Let's try and find the part-time. Remember, Michael Clark did that at the SCG that time, bowling a bit of left arm spin, and they probably think that, which I'm not sure whether that's the right thing. I want us to pick
it's not the Australian way, is it? Michael Clark was a pure batsman who could bowl a bit of spin.
And certainly better numbers in first class cricket before being elevated. Right now, Australia seem to be picking guys, all of whom average in the 30s.
Absolutely, and Mitchell Marsh kind of, England kind of selection where this guy can also bowl for us, bat for us. It's good that Pakistan didn't go for Fahim Ashraf in this test match. They've stuck with the specialist. So this is a bit un-Australian to go for somebody batting at number 3 because he bowls a bit of leg spin.
Damien?
I agree, and I think that's been the problem. Justin Langer came out and said, let's look at Shield cricket now, first class system. Maybe it's dropped its standard because we haven't got guys there putting numbers up to put pressure on and get in the side. No one, the old days of Matthew Hayden and Darren Lehman averaging 50 in Shield cricket and still couldn't get a game. We haven't got those guys putting their hands up at the moment.
I mean, that's exactly it. I think it's the lack of quality. So
33 as a first class average
Yeah.
has become very common. People actually playing international cricket or test cricket with averages of early 30s in first class cricket.
It does seem so that Australian selectors need to just pick on gut. I heard Shane Warne on commentary last game saying get Darcy short and he could solve the problems. There's no evidence in Shield cricket to suggest that, but it seems like a crisis in Australian first class cricket.
I didn't think Australia would ever face it. I mean, the teams that we played against, I don't think it looked like they would ever run out of good players, but that is the case at the moment.
Damien, you were part of those teams. Is this now a watershed moment? The things need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how does Australia find that talent pool of players that served them so well in all those years that you played?
Yeah, that's the big question of Cricket Australia, isn't it? The new CEO's coming now to go. Our first class system, was very good and a high standard. Now, is that just talent coming through that we haven't found, or is it the system? That's something for them to really delve into, because we haven't got people putting their hands up and making runs and knocking the door. As we just said, we've got people averaging around 30 in first class cricket. And we know that once you go to test cricket, it's very hard to average above your first class average. You've got to be something extreme. So if you're going into test cricket with a first class average of 30, 35, you're going to struggle.
It was a good time to bowl. You would have enjoyed bowling maybe in 2018 instead of
No,
the hardy hearts that Damien
better.
and the rest of them
Ajit
need to
always
put you
liked
through.
higher challenges.
Of course he did. All right, couple of fan questions that happened about early on this Thursday morning. Let's have a look at the first question. This is from Arun. Sanjay, were you disappointed by Payne's remark about missing Smith and Warner? Does it indicate a lack of confidence?
It's a cricketing observation. Everyone misses their ability and skills, especially with the kind of batsmen that we're seeing on display. I think they should complete their term of the ban, and come back and to be welcomed back, because they didn't fix matches. Let's not forget they didn't fix matches. Ball tampering has gone on forever, and there are people who have done it twice or thrice and are now captaining their side without any bans. So let's be, a bit understanding, and
yeah, I mean, it seems
like
people. Most of the cricketing community is looking forward to welcoming them back. There doesn't seem to be any some kind of resistance that no, they need to sit out.
I thought it was very harsh, that one year ban. I mean, it was a bit ridiculous, really. But I suppose it was Cricket Australia. It wasn't the ICC that did it. It was Cricket Australia who made the decision.
Yeah, it was more a cultural, societal thing, and the timing of that, indiscretion wasn't right, and that's why they had to bear the brunt. It was very harsh.
Looks like it's behind Australia now, so we look forward to seeing the reintroduction of Smith and Warner in what is a World Cup year. Shouldn't forget. Now, one more question before we fast approach the first ball at the Sydney Cricket Ground from Jatinder Kohli. Any reasons why Bhuvi has fallen out of favour? He was not even named in the 13. Ajit?
Ajit is not a fan. So
Yeah, not in these conditions. I mean, unless it was a seaming track. Again, he's not had a lot of cricket either over the last few months. That's the other thing. They've rested him a lot. He's been carrying that little niggle, back niggle. That doesn't help.
Do you think something about the way he's bowling in the nets and stuff also, because people don't see that?
Possibly, but I think it's more to do with lack of overs or lack of bowling, that you suddenly don't want to put somebody in a test match if he's not had. There's not been a tour game in between these test matches. It was at the start. So, yeah, hasn't had cricket, but in these conditions, I mean, the other four, in my opinion,
but why do you say, why do you think Bhuvi is not ideally suited for this kind of pitches?
I think so. I think once the ball's a little bit older, and if he's not at his best, which I haven't seen him in recent times, seems to be carrying stiff back or a little bit of a niggle.
Yes.
And when that zip goes missing, then he becomes half the bowler that he is, especially when the ball's a bit older.
Missed a significant part of the England tour too, Bhuvneshwar Kumar. You've got to figure out how much long-form cricket he's had of late. But there you go. We'll keep taking your questions as this test match comes along. Big one for India. Before we wrap things up on the pre-show, it's time for some entertainment through the course of our FAB 4 game that we play with our experts on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, and have a quick look at exactly how we end up getting our experts some points. Each run that the player gets them a point. 50s and 100s get them bonus points. It's a fantasy system where each expert picks 4 players on every given day of the test match. Bowlers tend to get you slightly more returns than batsmen, in our game at least. 20 points for each wicket, 3 wicket and 5 wicket hauls, and the bowler with the best strike rate all pick up bonus points. Fielding as well gets you some points, as you'd expect in this FAB 4 scoring system. And finally, the points a player earns is for that particular day only. Expert playing the game will earn points every day of the test, and the one with the most points at the end of the test is a winner. Ajit Agarkar did crawl into, I think, second place in the Adelaide test when he played.
Crawl?
So you made a backdoor entry. You were trailing for the first 4 days.
Yeah, and I still managed the second
So you
spot.
paced it well, really. You were aiming for second grade.
Smart picks.
Of course. Now let's have a look at some of those picks. Damien Martyn also had the pleasure of playing this in Perth. I think, if my memory serves me right, he won this one in Perth. So let's see how the picks have come. All right, Damien, why don't you start off?
I'm starting. Okay. Well, as you say, bowlers get more points. Is that what I was saying? So Australia's bowling.
Look at him, very smart.
I'm going Lyon. I'm going Stark, Cummings, and I'm going Kohli, because Kohli always gets runs. So just put Kohli in there as well.
It would be fun if India were about 190 for 1 at the end of the day. Those 4 points would be something.
This is day one.
Sanjay, yes.
So I'm included this time in this competition.
You
so
were
I'm
there
thrilled.
from start to finish. Yes, Sanjay.
So
you have
Hazelwood, because Australia will be bowling. This is only for day one.
That's right.
Pujara. Surprised I'm picking Pujara now.
Finally,
considering my
because he's so talented. Yes.
Virat Kohli is a safe bet,
Yes.
and Nathan Lyon.
Very well. Ajit?
Got to go for Cummins. It's in good form. Hazelwood, Kohli. Difficult to leave Kohli out. And I'm going to go Stark. I think Australia will have a good bowling day.
Very well. Many thanks, Ajit Agarkar and Sanjay Manjrekar. Also to Damien Martyn. We'll get their thoughts for the lunchtime show. Both teams donning black armbands. Australia in the memory of Bill Watson, the former Australia and New South Wales batsman, and India, of course, the memory of the late Ramakant Achrekar. We'll get you all the very latest on the lunchtime show in a couple of hours. Until then, big test match. India batting first. Enjoy it.